The hospital doors slid open, and every doctor, nurse, and patient froze. A German shepherd stood in the doorway, drenched, trembling, his eyes filled with desperation. Across his back lay something small, wrapped in torn fabric. No one moved until the bundle shifted, revealing the pale face of a little girl. The dog took one final step forward, collapsing at the nurse's feet. What he carried wasn't just a child. It was a story of love, loyalty, and a miracle that would change everyone who witnessed it that night. That it was a stormy evening at St. Mary's Hospital. The rain hammered the glass doors, and the lobby buzzed with nurses rushing, doctors shouting, and machines beeping in the distance. Everything was routine until the automatic doors slid open, and silence fell. That a massive German shepherd staggered in, dripping wet, his paws leaving muddy prints across the white floor. He wasn't on a leash. He wasn't with anyone. But on his back, something small, wrapped in a torn pink jacket, was a little girl. Her arms were weakly clinging around his neck, her face pale, her jeans smeared with blood. Gasps echoed through the hall. "Oh my God," whispered a nurse. The dog stumbled forward, eyes desperate but determined, heading straight toward the emergency ward. When a security guard tried to stop him, he let out a low growl, not out of anger, but fear. Then, as if he understood, he gently laid the girl at the doctor's feet before collapsing beside her. His chest heaved, eyes fluttering. The hospital froze. No one moved, no one spoke. And in that haunting silence, one truth became clear. This wasn't just a dog. This was a protector, carrying his world on his back. The emergency doors burst open as the little girl was lifted onto a stretcher. Nurses shouted orders, doctors rushed in, and the sound of beeping machines filled the air. The German shepherd limped behind them, ignoring every command to stay back. His eyes never left her, not once. "Vitals dropping. Prepare for," shouted Dr. Collins. The girl's breathing was shallow, her pulse fading. Outside the glass doors, the dog pressed his nose against the window, pacing in circles, whining softly. Every time she moaned, he barked, as if trying to answer her pain. Security stepped forward to remove him, but Nurse Elena shook her head. "No, let him stay. He's her guardian." The men hesitated, and for a moment, the hospital seemed to hold its breath. Hours passed. The storm outside raged on, thunder shaking the windows. The dog never sat down. He stood like a soldier, soaked and trembling, eyes fixed on the girl's bed through the glass. Finally, the light above the operating room flicked off. The door opened, and Dr. Collins stepped out, exhausted but smiling faintly. "She'll make it," he said. The German shepherd let out a single, broken whimper, half cry, half sigh, then slowly lay down on the cold tile floor. For the first time, he rested. The next morning, the hospital was quieter than usual. Word had spread overnight about the mysterious German shepherd who had carried a wounded girl through the storm and refused to leave her side. Doctors and patients alike peeked into the hallway where he lay, eyes open, alert, watching the ICU doors like a guardian made of stone. When Nurse Elena brought him food, he didn't touch it. Instead, he lifted his head only when he heard the faint beep of the girl's monitor from across the hall. "He's not hungry," she whispered to Dr. Collins. "He's waiting." Hours later, the girl stirred. Her eyelids fluttered open, and the first word she spoke was a whisper. "Rex." Elena froze. "You know him?" The child nodded weakly. "He's my dad's dog." Piece by piece, the story unraveled. A car accident, a dark forest road, a night of rain and fear. Her father, an off-duty police officer, hadn't survived. But Rex had stayed. He'd pulled her from the wreck, kept her warm, and when she stopped moving, he carried her, mile after mile, toward the distant glow of hospital lights. Elena covered her mouth, tears welling. He never gave up on her. She whispered, "Doctor." Collins looked through the glass, voice trembling. "That's not just loyalty. That's love in its purest form." By the following day, the story had spread beyond the hospital walls. Reporters gathered outside, cameras flashing, journalists begging for details about the dog who carried a child through the storm. Inside, though, everything was quiet. The little girl, now stable, lay in bed, her hand resting gently on Rex's paw. He hadn't moved from her side once. Doctor Collins examined him and frowned. "He's hurt worse than we thought." Cracked ribs, severe dehydration, deep cuts on his legs. He needs surgery, Elena said. He won't survive it unless he rests first, Collins replied softly. When they tried to take Rex to the treatment room, he resisted, trembling and growling weakly until the girl whispered, "It's okay, Rex. I'll be here when you wake up." Only then did he relax. Hours later, the surgery was over. Rex's breathing was shallow, his body wrapped in bandages. The staff watched as the little girl sat beside him, stroking his head, whispering stories about her dad, his former handler. "He used to call Rex his best partner," she said softly. "Now he's mine." Dr. Collins looked away, hiding tears. He saved her life, and now she's saving his. Outside the room, nurses stood silently, hands over their hearts. Heroes wear uniforms, some thought. But this one wore fur. Within days, the world knew his name. Headlines flooded the internet. The dog who carried a child through the storm. Photos of Rex lying beside the little girl went viral, melting hearts everywhere. Letters, toys, and donations poured into St. Mary's Hospital from across the globe. People called him the guardian dog, the miracle shepherd, and a father's promise in fur. The hospital organized a press conference, but inside those walls, Rex remained unchanged. Fame meant nothing to him. All he cared about was the small heartbeat sleeping beside him. The little girl giggled whenever visitors tried to take pictures, wrapping her arms protectively around his neck. "He doesn't like cameras," she'd whisper. The mayor arrived days later, carrying a golden medal engraved with the words, "For bravery beyond instinct." When he fastened it to Rex's collar, the crowd erupted in applause. Rex tilted his head, confused by the noise, his tail thumping softly on the floor. Reporters captured the moment, a child hugging her hero, a dog who refused to give up, but behind the smiles and cameras, Dr. Collins whispered something that made everyone pause. He didn't do this for glory. He did it because love told him to. Weeks passed, and the hospital slowly returned to normal, except for one thing. Every morning, staff gathered near room 12 just to see the same sight. A little girl laughing softly as a healed German shepherd wagged his tail beside her. Rex had recovered, but he never once left her side. When the day finally came for her to be discharged, the hospital staff lined the halls. Doctors, nurses, and even patients leaned out of their rooms to watch as she took her first steps toward the exit. Rex walking proudly beside her, metal gleaming in the light. Cameras flashed, but the moment felt too sacred for applause. The doors. She knelt down and wrapped her arms around him. "We're going home, Rex," she whispered. His tail wagged once, slow and steady, as if he understood every word. Outside, the world waited, people cheering, holding banners that read, "Thank you, hero." The little girl smiled shyly and looked up at the sky. "Dad would be proud of you," she whispered. The narrator's voice fades in softly. Sometimes, love doesn't end when life does. Sometimes, it simply changes shape and finds its way back to us. As Rex and the girl walked into the sunlight, the hospital behind them glowed like a memory of miracles.